In 1947, a family of horrific tornadoes engulfed 3 states of the US, causing damage along a 170-mile stretch. Spawned by a single supercell, one of the tornadoes was rated F5 on the Fujita scale and was blamed for almost all of the destruction. To date, it is recalled as one of the biggest naturally occurring disasters in the US. In today's video, we're going back on a heartbreaking trip when the Glazier-Higgins-Woodward tornado swept across 3 states, damaging houses, cars, and everything that stood in its way. On Wednesday, April 9, 1947, the United States Weather Bureau in Amarillo, Texas, forecasted temperatures of about 60 degrees Fahrenheit over the Texas Panhandle. The weather was relatively cool, and a layer of light fog was present in the air. However, a warm front was approaching, which extended from Sherman, Texas, all the way to Raton, New Mexico. Nobody knew this would soon turn into a tornadic storm, resulting in one of the biggest catastrophes ever. During the afternoon of April 9th, a tornado storm struck the city of Woodward. It began from the Texas Panhandle and produced at least 6 tornadoes, which spread along a 220-mile-long path from White Deer, Texas to St. Leo, Kansas. Before striking Woodward, the tornado began near Canadian, Texas, and quickly moved northeast, continuing for more than 100 miles on the ground. Eventually, it reached the Woods County, Oklahoma, just west of Alva. The 1.8-mile-wide tornado was massive and traveled at speeds of more than 50 miles per hour. In the first few minutes, it struck Glazier and Higgins in the Texas Panhandle, completely destroying the city's infrastructure. It was reported that due to the tornado, at least 69 casualties occurred before it passed on and entered Oklahoma. The storm first hit Ellis County in Oklahoma, but surprisingly, no towns were affected. It moved on to the southeast of Shattuck, Gage, and Fargo, but missed all the towns. However, in its way, it destroyed 60 farms and ranches. Additionally, over 42 people were injured, while 8 fatalities were recorded. As it moved towards Woodward County, the storm also claimed 1 more life near Tangier. Although its devastating effects and horrifying nature spread fear across the states, the violent tornado unleashed its wrath on Woodward, causing the most destruction. It was 8:42 p.m. when the tornado struck, and within the first few minutes, over 100 city blocks on the west and north were completely demolished. The southeast part of the town was relatively safe and did not endure much damage. However, on the north and west sides, fires and destruction were seen everywhere. Panic surrounded Woodward, as more than 1,000 homes were destroyed, and several businesses completely vanished from land. Because of the high-speed winds, all communication lines were damaged, and Woodward had no way of contacting anybody for help. Furthermore, authorities could not enter the areas because the tornado was not sparing anything that came near it. At its peak, the tornado speed was recorded anywhere between 260 to 300 miles per hour, and it led to not only property damage, but several deaths. Thousands were left homeless, while over 100 people were killed. The injury count increased to over 1,000 within minutes, and since there was no communication with the outside world, uncertainty was all around regarding the actual death and injury count. 3 children who passed away were never identified, possibly due to their parents and families also losing their lives. 1 child miraculously survived the tornado, but was separated from her family and was never reunited. The tornado traveled for more than 98 miles and was recorded to be over 3,220 meters wide. As it moved forward, assistive units, ambulances, and rescue authorities reached Woodward. Help also came from faraway cities like Oklahoma City and Wichita. Once the tornado moved out of Woodward, it lost some of its intensity, but still managed to destroy countless barns and farms, kill animals, and ruin properties. 36 more fatalities were also recorded, as well as 30 injuries in Woods County before the tornado ended. In all, over 116 lives were lost in Oklahoma on the 9th of April 1947. The next day was perhaps the darkest day and night in the history of Woodward. Over 3,000 people were homeless, over 100 were dead, and thousands were severely injured. Property damage exceeded $5 million, and all electricity, water, and telephone services were destroyed. The dead bodies lying on the ground were helpless, as the authorities could not manage between helping the injured and picking up the deceased. It was not until midnight that the dead bodies were moved to the morgue. As the fierce wind died, Dazed survivors crawled from the wreckage of homes in pitch darkness, searching for their loved ones, hoping that they had survived. Many were left heartbroken when they held the lifeless bodies of their loved ones in their hands. Although the tornado had settled, one last blow of nature remained. For the next 30 minutes, fierce lightning broke out in the skies, starting fires in the northeast section of Woodward. The fire engulfed the Big 7 Electric Company, the Big 7 Hotel, the Armour Creamery, and the Rainy Davis wholesale firm. Followed by the lightning, a rainstorm fell on Woodward, which added to the misery. Electric pumps failed, the water supply was exhausted, and due to destruction, there was no shelter. Hundreds of volunteers began helping the survivors and transporting them to nearby hospitals. The Woodward Hospital overflowed with injured patients, and the next stop was at the Baptist Church Emergency Hospital. However, this emergency hospital was also quickly filled, and many injured were still out in the open, in dire need of medical assistance. As a last resort, the Baker Hotel guests were emptied, and the injured were moved into the rooms. Temporary hospitals were also set up in the Christian and Methodist churches. 11 miles east of Woodward, the Moreland Community Hospital was also jam-packed within a few hours. Doctors were flown in from Oklahoma City and Wichita to cater to the patients. The Chenoweth and Armstrong funeral homes fell far behind the task of caring for all the deceased, and could not dig graves as quickly as the dead bodies were flowing in. A devastating view was seen in the Armstrong funeral home, when survivors reported seeing the body of a small child clinging onto a muddy rag doll in his arms. Relief agencies set up 3,000 cots and blankets in churches and community buildings so the homeless survivors would have somewhere to spend the night. The Army also stepped in and provided 3,000 tents from Fort Worth. Amidst the chaos, Paul Reed, the Public Safety Commissioner at the time, reported that all sections where houses, businesses, and damaged buildings were present were restricted to the public. A series of criminal investigations also broke out, since many cases of looting were reported. However, no serious losses were reported, and the culprits were caught. Guardsmen were deployed in the areas to secure the buildings, and anybody who had to enter the restricted zone required special passes from the Highway Patrol Office. Back at the hospitals, blood plasma was in severe shortage, and the State Health Department had to arrange large quantities flown in. Mobile X-ray and hospital units were also deployed, and throughout the day, identification of the dead people was done. Relatives came into Woodward from all across the country, hoping that their loved ones would have survived. However, as time passed, the list of missing people only shortened as their dead bodies were identified. Families with small children huddled in safe spaces like caves and under the rubble, traumatized and shocked by what they had just witnessed. The Red Cross deployed mobile canteens to provide coffee and sandwiches to the survivors and distribute clothing for the naked children. The authorities and local government issued an official statement where they said that the family of tornadoes affected Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. The damage amounted to more than $173 million. More than 1,000 homes were destroyed in all 3 states collectively, while thousands were left homeless. The total fatalities were never fully counted, but many sources provided that they exceeded well over 180. The Glazier-Higgins-Woodward tornado remains one of the most horrifying natural disasters to ever affect the US.